And so she said to me, well, why don't you contact the Trimble Foundation and see what if they would be willing to fund you? And I did. And what happened was we were right in their sweet spot of women's empowerment and girls' education. And we now have a 3-year contract, a grant with them. So had it not been for Susan and had it not been for that close alliance that we had and for her generosity in identifying this donor, we might not be here now. So that might not happen to everybody, but I'm just saying the importance of this peer-to-peer support is hard to overestimate. I would say also cultivate your networks carefully and cultivate people within them before you need anything from them. Or if you go to them for some need, go it as a very soft need. Don't go for very big needs. Some people are very good at networking. I am. I love to network. I love it. It comes naturally to me. Not everybody is. So I think that if you are, put yourself on a networking path. If you're not, find people who can network for you, so that can bring that to the table, because it's important to use those networks. There are 2 that I would name to you. You probably already know them, but if you do, forgive me. But one of them is called the Network of Engaged International Donors. It's called NEED, and NEED has a broad group of people that are members. They're donors. They're programs like ours. They do professional conferences. They do sector-related kind of more deep dives into certain areas. One of the ones that was most important to me in the early days was the girls' education sector. So do find these networks that have meaning for you and use them. The other one is the Boston Network for International Donors. Heller, I think, is a member of BNID, and BNID does a lot of very good networking, and you might want to take advantage of them as well, which is just to say that do be strategic about your networks and do use them well. I have, and I think it's been helpful to me. The other thing I would say is, to the degree that you can, get yourself into some sort of cross-generational spaces. So use the value of people who've had experience, who have some connections. Use the people who are slightly ahead of you in their careers, and then your peers, of course. So I think not only will that give you a broader range of expertise that you could draw from, but it'll also give you perspectives that are probably important to add into the mix that you'll want to be putting out there in the work that you're doing. I would say embrace relevant volunteerism. So that's how I got to Heller. I mean, that's how I got to chair the board of the Heller School. Was one fine day, someone said to me, will you join the board? And I said, okay. I didn't know any reason not to, and I loved Heller. And I've been very involved in the GRI, which I mentioned before. That was a volunteer opportunity. Heller was a volunteer opportunity. My membership on the board for BNID was a volunteer opportunity, and there are many others. So I would say, to the degree that you can make the time, and the degree that you think that these will be interesting, that there'll be value added for you, and that you can add value to them, I would say think about that, particularly, as your load lightens, and you can think, what might I do, and how can I both benefit and give value? And I guess the last thing I would say is say thank you and let people know how it went, because lots of times, and I've found this in my own experiences with people, lots of times people ask you for things, you're very happy to do it, you're happy to give it, you're happy to give the advice, you're happy to open the door, you're happy to make it happen for people. It's super important to thank people when they do that, and you'd be surprised it doesn't always happen. The other thing that's even more important and interesting is let them know how it went, because people who spend their time with you and helping you do want to know. They want to know what happened, even if it's 6 months out or a year out, and it's something that you helped them with. They just want to know because it matters. So I would say maybe that would be the whole sort of package of what I would share with you today, which is this whole first piece of the career trajectory. It's my own. Anybody else's will be different, but that's mine. And then the whole matter of kind of what I learned and what I think could be applied going forward. So I don't know. I hope I did what you wanted me to do.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. I have just been listening to you, and I think your experience and what you have done, it spans across, from planning to implementation to impact measurement, and actually starting something that I feel like, and just like you said, women's work and advancement, I feel like is one of the most productive ways to make change in our communities. And as a beneficiary and as someone actually who also runs a similar organization, I'm just listening to you, and I am just wowed. Thank you so much. We can, I think, move on to the question and answer, because I actually have some questions in the chat for you. So if you're up to that, we can. And then I have a hand too. So great. This is going to be a great discussion. So the first question we have here is from okay, so a student, and they said, hi, Dr. Kane, what lessons can you take from your experience from addressing barriers to women's leadership in Ghana that can be applied across other countries and communities?
That's a good question. I would say, what sprung to my mind right away was this amazing mentor that we have. And when you go on our website, and thank you very much for putting those links in the chat. This was really helpful. I was going to do it, and I'm glad you did it. So when you go on our website, you'll see she's called Bridget, and Bridget she was one of the first. She's in our pictures when you go on it. She's there. She's this big, lovely, enthusiastic lady who was in a lot of our photos. She's a mentor, and she was running for president of Ghana. Now, she didn't win, but she was nominated by her party, and she took the challenge. And she also was extremely open to our fellows, and particularly to her mentees. And so I guess what I've learned is, so here's what I'd say. I'm just backing off this a little bit. One of the reasons that we chose Ghana to work was because it works. So it's a country that has enough of an infrastructure. It has a legal framework that supports girls' education, that supports women's empowerment. So there's enough there that we could say, okay, this is fine, we can do this. And so Bridget is part of that world, and she has taken absolutely full advantage of it, and she doesn't take any prisoners. So I guess what I would say is, and so the other thing to answer the question is, we feature so we have bi-weekly meetings with our fellows that involve the leadership training and all of that, and then we meet twice a year. We're very careful to feature women who are leaders in their field. They're role models, and they've accomplished a lot, and they're willing to share their stories with our fellows. So I guess if I were to say anything that I've learned from listening to these women and to Bridget, it's three things. One is, know where you want to go, and they do. Know who you can count on to get there, and be willing to bring others along. That seems to me if I were to distill what leadership factor what has helped in this leadership factor, this women's leadership factor, I would say those might be some of the things that would be part of it.
All right. We have a hand that's up from another student. So I'm just gonna have you go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay, hello, Dr. Kane. Thank you for your, inspiring story. I was really impressed. I'm also coming from a country in West Africa, but I think our context is a bit different from Ghana and from Nigeria.
Okay.
And I know one of the challenges. I'm coming from a STEM background. Let me just give you a bit from my history. My first 2 degrees were in environmental chemistry, and because of some of the things I saw in terms of environmental injustice, I actually branched out and started doing human rights work, and I've worked within that field for the past 2 years. And that has taken me through so many routes, including gender-based violence. So I'm coming from a country that has a patriarchal system, and they have this barrier against women actually in leadership positions. I've experienced such discrimination along the line, even because of my work, and I'm listening to you, and I said that, when you have a government who doesn't really believe in women being in the corporate, arena, it's very difficult sometimes breaking down those barriers.
Mhm.
Although we have so many women who have gone to school and are doing well in their individual careers, but breaking down in the corporate world in terms of Nigeria as a structure, in terms of leadership position, especially for public office, has been a bit very difficult. We've
Mhm.
tried looking for that space so that we can make a difference with all the women. But you see, we're like butting our head against a structure that doesn't want women to succeed because the men feel either intimidated when the women, get entered to that space, and it's so difficult. I've worked with the automated projects, especially when it comes to women empowerment and violence against women, and we've been doing it. We actually had even one that we said he for she, bringing in men to like understand sometimes the impacts of what they do against the women, but we are still not making progress. So sometimes I'm hearing your story and I'm asking, what is it that we can do that can change the narrative? And that's one of the things that drove me, trying to change my career trajectory. That we've been talking about this thing, girls are going to school, but even after going to school, we're still not seeing them in the positions of leadership and being able to make a change or influence anything. They've capped this barrier that we can't seem to break through, especially when it comes to political empowerment for women in Nigeria. It's a major thing. If you come out to even try, oh my God, the backlash you would face, it's terrible. Now women are now shying out from coming out to look for political positions or all that because of that backlash. And now we're, instead of us achieving like they say 30% women in political space, we have actually reduced further. So now I'm at a dilemma. See, I'm learning so much here in Hela, but I'm like asking, how do I translate it to ensure that women empowerment continues to advance in my country, Nigeria? I don't know what you can share.
I don't know what to say. I just, first of all, thank you so much for all you've done and all you're going to do, because you're really obviously extremely experienced and very dedicated. So just a big thank you for who you are and what you're doing in the space. It's super important. I don't know what the parallels are really between, I haven't spent a lot of time in Nigeria. When I was working for Oxfam, I did, but not a whole lot. So I don't know how we can, move some of the lessons that we're learning in Ghana to the Nigerian context. Of course, I don't mean to kind of oversimplify the challenges. They're strong in Ghana too. It's just that I think I'm trying to emphasize the strengths of what's been happening, which is not to say that there haven't been challenges that our fellows and our mentors face on a regular basis. If, Jennifer, you have any more specific thoughts or something, I'd be happy to be in contact with you directly and see if there's anything else we could talk about. But I don't want to oversimplify something that's obviously a really big challenge. But I do think that the sorority of women who support each other is extremely important. And that's what I'm seeing coming out of our mentors and our fellows. And that's one of the things that I think, when I think about what's distinguishing about our program, the leadership and training is extremely important, but the fellowship the sorority that's coming out of all of this seems to me deeply significant. And we're learning that's happening with the fellows. And I'm sure you have a sorority of women that you're working with too, who help you. And if I can be part of that, I'd be privileged to do so.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kane. I will definitely explore the opportunity with you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I totally relate to that question because just last week, I made a remark about it from an experience that happened. I'm from the Gambia, by the way, West Africa. Mm-hmm. And, it happened to my sister, and my sister is currently studying law. And she has an education and I have a voice, but even with her education and my voice, I felt like with that particular incident, the community still won. And, I'm like, what can we do in a way that we're bringing the communities along? Because whatever empowerment you get, sometimes it only goes to a certain extent. And sometimes along the way, you break down because the community is not with you. So thank you for that very important question. I can pull up the next one, which says, what are some other ways you are adding value to women's advancement? I think you started talking a little bit about some distinguished features of what you're doing, but how are you adding value to what other people are already doing in the work?
So before I answer that one, I just want to make a remark about your previous comment about bringing the community along, and how that's something that is very important to the work that our fellows do at the grassroots level, because each of them has a grassroots program. And I remember thinking, and I learned this through World Education principally, but also to some degree from Oxfam, but mainly through World Education, is that it's all well and good to have these ideas and to have these plans, but if you don't bring the community, then it can break down there. And so in a lot of the pictures that we see of our fellows and their programs in the community, I remember initially thinking, God, what are all these men doing in these pictures? I mean, for goodness sakes, but that's what it is. And that's one of the things that I had to sort of say, well, it's not just, it's about bringing the community along. It's not just bringing along, to my earlier points about bringing the voices, addressing the voices of people who are in opposition. It's really hard to do, and it's no fun, but it's sort of one of the aspects of our work, I think, really. So again, I don't want to oversimplify, but it is important to break down what this community resistance is, and to the degree that we can have any small part of addressing it, I think it's important to break it down and name it. What is our value added to the whole work? I would say part of it is, well, we're using our networks well. So I would say that, for example, we have a good network of partners in Ghana. We will continue new partnerships in our next countries. But the partnerships in Ghana involve CanFed, which is Campaign for Education, which some of you may well know. They're a fantastic partner. Plan International, Lead for Ghana, which is Teach for America in Ghana. Ashesi University, which is a major university in Africa, really, for ethical leadership. Practical Education Network, which is a applied sort of STEM program. So I mentioned them because they're strong partners, and we use them to nominate. So we ask our partners to nominate possible fellows, and then we take a look at the nominations and we invite applications. So I would say that maybe one of the value add, clear what the value add is from the partners to us, but I think a value add for them is that they have this unique program that none of them runs, that's very focused on intense deep dives in very early women's leadership, post-college and post the things that they've been supporting. And so our value added, I think, to them is that we're another option that they can send their absolutely top, graduates or their top people that they know in their early careers to. So, and to us, of course, we get the benefit of them knowing who are the brightest to come out. So I guess that's one value. The other is, we aren't yet at the point of publishing our leadership impact measures, but we're very much in a co-design. That our way of operating is by co-design. So we have this basic framework, and then we evaluate ourselves regularly, and then we moderate our program. So in a certain sense, we're modeling something that we think is really important, and not all people do, not all organizations do that. So that's another thing I think that is our value added, is sort of the way we go about tailoring and shaping to our to make the work relevant for each class of fellows. I guess so. I would say maybe those are two. They're very modest because we're very new, and so I don't want to overstate our value to anybody, and of course to the fellows.
Yeah, thank you so much. We have about 9 minutes to wrap up, so we don't have any more questions, but we had a message from one of the students, and she said she will keep in touch. So I'm sure you will hear from some of the students here, and as we will share this recording as well, a lot of other people would love to reach out. So if you would like to share anything before we wrap up, you're very welcome to.
Yeah, I would. I'd just like to, first of all, thank you once again for inviting me to do this. It was a real privilege, and it was fun for me to think back over all of this and reflect a little bit. So I was happy to have the opportunity to do it. I guess maybe my final thought might be is don't feel alone. I mean, know that there's a world of people out there, and you're amongst them now, and that's even bigger. It's the alumni network. It's a lot. It's out there. So don't feel that you have to carry this all alone, because you don't. And there are many ways to shoulder these various social challenges that we have and that we've all signed up for. So don't be alone, and do take advantage of the supports that you'll get from people if you reach out to them.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. And on behalf of the HELA Career Office, I just want to thank you for honoring our invitation and, sharing the wisdom that you have. In a couple of weeks, we are looking at some very interesting programming that I wanted to share with the students as well. Next week, we are having an ISSO event, especially for international students, to just orient them on what working in the US looks like, what are the expectations, and what are some ways you can leverage resources both at HELA and outside. You just talked about alumni engagement as well. We are looking forward to an alumni networking night on October 27 as well. So I wanted to take this opportunity to invite students to that. As well as our next career conversations, one of them which is going to be having Dean Madison share her career trajectory with the students. So yeah, some really exciting programming, and we are so happy to have you as one of the people starting this off. Thank you so much for honoring this invitation, and we will keep in touch. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you, Constance.
Thank
Great
you.
to see you.
Bye-bye. You too. Bye-bye. Bye.